Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we are going to be looking at Awaken Your Potential. It's a YouTube channel. It's all about personal growth and self-discovery. And they have this really cool 9-step transformative series, and that's kind of what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah, I really like this channel. It's very practical. It's not just a lot of fluff. It's really like, okay, here are the steps you can take to actually, make changes in your life.
Yeah, and they have so much content, too. I mean, there's so much to explore on this channel. But today, we're going to zoom in on step 4 of that 9-step series, and it is all about your social life. It's called Social Life, Build Relationships that Inspire and Empower You.
Well, I think that's so important. So much of the self-help world focuses on, kind of the individual and what you can do on your own. But, we are social creatures. We're meant to be in connection with others, and the quality of our relationships really has a huge impact on our well-being.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And what's interesting is in the video description, they highlight this research that shows strong positive relationships not only make us happier, which we kind of already know, but they can actually enhance our resilience. They can boost creativity, and they can even give us a greater sense of purpose.
I love that they brought that in, because it's not just touchy-feely, like, oh, yeah, relationships make you feel good. It's like, no, there's actual science behind this. There are measurable benefits to having those strong social connections.
Right? It makes you stop and think about, who you're spending your time with and how those relationships are actually impacting you.
For sure. Are you feeling energized by those connections, or are you feeling drained?
That's such a good question. And they really dive into that in the video. They ask this question like, are your relationships helping you grow, or are they holding you back?
It's a powerful question, and one that I think we all need to ask ourselves regularly. We don't always stop to think about the impact that our social circle has on our lives.
It's so easy to just kind of go with the flow and not really evaluate whether those relationships are actually serving us.
Right, and sometimes we might be holding on to relationships out of habit or obligation, even though they're not really contributing to our well-being.
And it's not about, blaming other people or cutting people off necessarily. It's just about becoming more aware of, what each relationship brings to your life and making conscious choices about where you invest your energy.
I think that's key. It's not about judging other people. It's about understanding the energy dynamics in your relationships and making sure that you're prioritizing those connections that are truly supportive and uplifting.
Yeah, and in the video, they actually talk about, what these empowering relationships look like, and they describe them as, having mutual respect, trust, shared values, encouragement. It's like a two-way street where both people feel supported and inspired.
I love how they emphasize that it's not about competition or one person always giving and the other always taking. It's about mutual growth.
Right? It's not a zero-sum game. It's about both people benefiting from the relationship.
Exactly. And they have this beautiful analogy in the video. They say, think of your social life as a garden. The quality of your relationships determines whether it thrives or withers.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Okay.
It's so visual. It makes so much sense. If we neglect our relationships, they wither, and if we nurture them, they flourish.
It's a powerful reminder that our relationships need attention and care, just like anything else that we value in our lives.
And I think that's what I appreciate about this channel is that they don't just give you these high-level concepts. They actually give you practical steps,
Yeah,
to take action and make changes.
right. They don't just tell you to go make more friends. They give you strategies for actually building those deeper, more meaningful connections.
Absolutely. So let's dive into those strategies. What are some of the actionable steps that they recommend for transforming your social life?
Okay, well, the first one is about identifying your core circle. And this is what we were talking about earlier, the 5 people you spend the most time with. They say, ask yourself, how do these people influence my mindset, my energy, and my overall progress?
So it's not about judging them or blaming them, but just being really honest with yourself about the impact that they're having.
Exactly. It's about awareness. And then from there, you can start to make more conscious choices about, how you interact with those people and how much time and energy you invest in those relationships.
And I imagine some of those relationships might need a little distance, if they're consistently draining your energy or pulling you down.
Right. It's not about abandoning those relationships necessarily, but maybe just shifting the dynamic a bit. Maybe you don't spend as much time with them, or maybe you set some boundaries around the types of conversations that you have with them.
It's all about being intentional with your social energy.
Exactly. And then the next step is to start seeking out what they call growth-oriented communities. And these are spaces where you can connect with people who share your interests, your values, and your ambitions.
Like online forums or hobby groups or professional networks, things like
Essentially,
that.
any place where people are coming together to learn and grow and support each other.
I love that. So it's about surrounding yourself with people who are on a similar path, who get your goals and who inspire you to push yourself further.
It's about creating that positive feedback loop for your personal growth.
I love that. And I think it's so important to have that kind of support system, especially when you're trying to make big changes in your life.
Absolutely. And these communities can be found everywhere. It's just a matter of seeking them out and putting yourself out there.
Okay, so we've got our core circle sorted, and we're actively seeking out these growth-oriented communities. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is about going beyond those surface level interactions and initiating deeper conversations.
So it's about moving past the small talk and really connecting with people on a more meaningful level.
Exactly. It's about asking those thought-provoking questions that allow you to get to know someone on a deeper level.
So instead of just asking, how was your weekend? You might ask something like, what are you most excited about right now? Or what's a challenge you're currently working through?
Exactly. Those are great examples, questions that invite people to open up and share more of themselves.
It's about being curious about other people and showing genuine interest in their lives.
And it's also about being willing to share a bit of yourself in return. It's about reciprocity and vulnerability.
That's so true. Vulnerability breeds connection. You know, when we're willing to be open and authentic, it gives other people permission to do the same.
And that's how you build those really strong bonds.
Okay, so we've got deeper conversations happening. What else is there?
Well, the last step that they talk about is setting healthy boundaries.
Boundaries. That's a big one. So many people struggle with that.
I know it's a tough one, but it's so important. And they frame it as, defining the space you need to thrive, protecting your energy, and ensuring that your relationships are balanced and supportive.
So it's not about being selfish or shutting people out. It's about honoring your own needs and making sure that your interactions with others are respectful and energizing.
Exactly. It's about knowing when to say no and setting limits on how much you give.
It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Hmm.
You have to take care of yourself first in order to show up fully for others.
Right. It's about self-care, and it's about making sure that your relationships are sustainable in the long run.
This has all resonated so much. So we've covered the importance of assessing our core circle, seeking out those growth-oriented communities, having those deeper conversations, and setting those all-important boundaries. What else did Awaken Your Potential have to say about building empowering relationships?
They talked a lot about the positive ripple effect that these connections can have. How our actions can inspire and uplift others and how that can spread outwards, impacting even more people.
It's like this beautiful chain reaction of kindness and support.
It is. And they encourage you to be that person who inspires others to be their best, to celebrate their successes, to offer a listening ear without judgment,
Wow.
to be that source of positivity and encouragement in your social circle.
I love that. It's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference in the world, starting with our own small acts of kindness.
And the beautiful thing is that as we uplift others, it also uplifts us. It creates this virtuous cycle of growth and inspiration.
We make each other better.
We do. And it's a reminder that our connections are not just about what we receive, but also about what we give.
And the more we invest in those empowering relationships, the richer and more fulfilling our lives become.
Absolutely.
Before we move on, I do want to remind our listeners to check out Awaken Your Potential's YouTube channel at youtube.com at Awaken Your Potential Now, where they have a ton of great videos on personal growth, self-discovery, and daily motivation. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell to stay updated. Also, check out their exclusive podcast, Awaken Your Potential Podcast, for deeper insights and bonus tips.
There's so much great content waiting for you there.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I feel like we've just scratched the surface. There's still so much to unpack when it comes to building these empowering relationships.
You're right. We've talked about the why these connections are so crucial for our well-being. But now let's delve a little deeper into the how we can actually identify and cultivate those relationships that will truly help us thrive.
Perfect. Let's dive into that after a quick break.
Sounds good. So you ready to dive deeper into the how of building those empowering relationships?
Absolutely. I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Well, in the video, they actually go into some pretty specific qualities to look for in those connections. And I think that's really helpful. It's not about, finding perfect people. It's about recognizing those relationships that genuinely nurture our growth and align with our values.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are some of those key qualities?
Well, one of the first things they mention is mutual respect. And it sounds basic, but you'd be surprised how often that's missing in relationships.
You're right. Respect is essential.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like, in practice?
It's about feeling safe to be yourself, to share your dreams and your fears without feeling like you're going to be judged or ridiculed.
It's about feeling heard and understood.
Exactly. And it's about valuing each other's opinions even when you disagree. It's not about always agreeing. It's about being able to have those healthy disagreements and still respect each other's perspectives.
I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And they also talk about the importance of shared values. Yeah. Right?
Yes, shared values are huge. And this doesn't mean that you have to agree on everything you know. But having some core values in common creates that sense of alignment and understanding that's so important for a strong relationship.
Right. It's like you're speaking the same language.
Wow.
You're on the same page when it comes to the things that really matter.
Exactly. And it makes it easier to support each other,
Right.
because you're both striving for similar things.
So shared values, mutual respect. What else?
They talk a lot about encouragement, too, like
Yeah.
true, genuine encouragement.
Yes, it's so important to have those people in your corner who believe in you, who cheer you on, who celebrate your wins, no matter how big or small.
Exactly. It's about having those people who remind you of your strengths when you're doubting yourself, who offer a listening ear when you need to vent, who push you to keep going when things get tough.
It's about feeling seen and supported and truly valued for who you are.
Right. And they don't just cheer you on, they also offer constructive criticism when it's needed.
Oh, that's so important too. You need those people who can be honest with you, even when it's hard.
Right. It's about having those people who will tell you when you're off track or making excuses, but they do it from a place of love and support, not judgment.
It's that tough love that we all need sometimes.
Exactly. And another important element that they mention is the idea of a safe space.
Oh, yes. Having those safe spaces is so crucial. We all need those people in our lives who we can be completely ourselves around, without any fear of judgment.
Absolutely. It's about knowing that you can be vulnerable, you can share your struggles and your insecurities, and you're not going to be rejected or shamed for it.
It's about feeling accepted for who you truly are, flaws and all.
And that safe space allows for honest feedback too. It's not just about blind support. It's about having those people who will challenge us constructively, who will help us see our blind spots and push us to grow.
Because sometimes we need that outside perspective.
Mhm.
We can't always see things clearly on our own.
Right. We need those people who can gently point out when we're self-sabotaging or holding ourselves back.
And they do it because they care.
Yeah,
They want to see us succeed.
exactly. And the last thing I want to mention is the idea of collaboration, not competition.
Oh, yes. That's so important.
Yeah.
It's about seeing each other as allies, not rivals.
Right. It's about understanding that someone else's success doesn't diminish your own. In fact, it can inspire you to reach even higher.
It's about celebrating each other's wins and supporting each other's journeys without feeling threatened or envious.
Exactly. And when we create that kind of supportive, collaborative environment, everyone benefits.
This is all so valuable. So we've talked about the key qualities to look for in those empowering relationships. Mutual respect, shared values, encouragement, a safe space, a spirit of collaboration. But I'm curious, how do we actually put this into practice? Like, how do we start cultivating these kinds of relationships in our own lives?
That's a great question, and that's what we're going to talk about next. They have some really practical tips for actually transforming your social life and making these changes happen.
Okay, I'm ready for some action steps. Let's do it. Okay, so let's dive into those action steps. I'm ready to start cultivating these empowering relationships in my own life. What's the first step?
So remember, the first step is to identify your core circle, those 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right, we talked about that earlier. It's about taking stock and honestly assessing whether those relationships are energizing or draining you.
Exactly. And sometimes it's about creating some distance from those relationships that aren't serving you, even if it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Prioritize your own well-being.
Okay, so once we have a handle on our core circle, what's next?
Seek out what they call growth-oriented communities. Those are spaces where you can connect with people who share your interests, values, aspirations.
Oh, I love that idea. So
Yeah.
you're talking about online forums, hobby groups, professional networks, volunteer organizations, really anywhere where people are coming together with a shared purpose.
Exactly. And it's like having a built-in network of cheerleaders who are rooting for your success.
It's so powerful to have that kind of support system, especially when you're trying to make big changes in your life.
It is. And, these communities can be found everywhere, both online and offline. It just takes a little effort to seek them out and put yourself out there.
Okay, so we're being mindful of our core circle. We're seeking out those growth-oriented communities. What else can we do to actively cultivate these empowering connections?
They emphasize the importance of deeper conversations, going beyond the surface level and really connecting with people on a more meaningful level.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think we all get stuck in that small talk rut sometimes.
hmm
So how do we break out of that and actually have those more meaningful conversations?
Ask thought-provoking questions, questions that invite people to open up and share their experiences, their passions, their challenges.
So instead of asking, how was your weekend? You might ask something like, what are you most excited about right now? Or what's a challenge you're currently working through?
Exactly. Questions like those can really spark a genuine connection and allow you to learn more about the other person.
It's about being curious about other people and showing that you genuinely care about what they have to say.
And it's also about being willing to share a bit of yourself in return, to be vulnerable and authentic.
Because vulnerability breeds connection,
Right.
right? When we're willing to show up as our true selves, it gives other people permission to do the same.
Absolutely. And that's how you build those really strong bonds.
Okay, so we've got deeper conversations happening. We're connecting on a more meaningful level.
What's next?
Well, the last step is about setting those healthy boundaries.
Right. Boundaries. We talked
Uh,
about that earlier. It can be tricky, but it's so important.
it is. And they frame it as defining the space you need to thrive, protecting your energy, and making sure that your relationships are balanced and supportive.
So it's not about being selfish or shutting people out. It's about honoring your own needs and making sure that your interactions with others are respectful and energizing.
Exactly. It's about knowing when to say no and setting limits on how much you give. It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself first in order to show up fully for others.
Right. It's about self-care, and it's about making sure that your relationships are sustainable in the long run.
This has been such an insightful conversation. We've covered so much ground, the why, the how, the incredible ripple effect that comes from cultivating these empowering connections.
It's a reminder that our relationships are not just about our own personal growth and happiness. They're also about contributing to a more vibrant and supportive world.
Absolutely. And for those who want to dive even deeper into this topic, I highly recommend checking out Awaken Your Potential on YouTube. They have a wealth of videos exploring these ideas and so much more. You can find them at youtube.com at Awaken Your Potential now. Don't forget to subscribe to Awaken Your Potential for more steps in this transformative journey and tap the bell to stay updated.
And for even more in-depth exploration, be sure to check out their podcast, Awaken Your Potential Podcast. It's packed with exclusive insights and bonus tips to help you awaken your potential in all areas of your life.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of social connections. We hope you feel inspired to cultivate those relationships that will help you truly thrive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep connecting.